Jimmy. Jimmy, can you hear me?
I had to look for the mute button. I can hear you.
Jimmy, I see some famous people in the chat.
I see a lot of famous people in the chat now. I'm getting nervous, Michelle.
I see Harold here. He might be asking an audio question today.
I heard Tom Cruise might be on an airplane too.
1 minute left, guys. 1 minute left. We'll see you in a bit. Good to have you here. Feel free to let us know where you're from.
T minus 20 seconds.
Busting out the megaphone.
Jimmy, customer service. Jimmy, customer service. Jimmy, who's responsible for these intros? Because it still showed episode 4, which was actually episode 5 with the Hive, instead of now episode 6.
I think somebody in the EU might be responsible for that. Higsy, welcome from Australia, everybody. Welcome, Higsy from Australia.
Hey everyone, how are we doing?
What time is it there?
Yeah,
it's a crazy 11:17 p.m. at the moment. So
on Friday night.
On a Friday night, you know, most of you guys are starting work. I've already clocked off. I'm like heading to bed, but no, can't. I've got to jump on for this one.
look at the dedication. Thanks everyone for joining on this beautiful morning, afternoon, or late evening. We might even go into the weekend with you today, Hixie. So that's gonna be fun. Welcome to episode 6 of Teams Rooms Tech Talk. Man, Jimmy, this channel is just it's starting to slowly explode. Right, with all the different content that we can offer.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things planned for this year. Obviously, this is pointed at partners. We do a lot of things. Gary is from the product group. Welcome, Gary Anselme from the product group as well.
Hey, how are you?
This is going to be a great discussion. If you are watching us on LinkedIn or Twitter, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's sort of where things are recorded and held. It's a little bit better to subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can watch us anywhere, but make sure that you're getting those alerts from the YouTube channel as well, because we're going to aggregate a whole bunch of content over there. Higsy, I think you have plans. Michelle, you and I have worked together on a bunch of things. Michael Tressler has been working with us as well. So it's just an exciting place. I wish everybody knew what we were working on. So
there are now 4 different shows. So this one, a Teams Rooms Tech Talk, which is a monthly show. A very exciting show today. Already a very exciting show lined up for next month. Because the guy that always gets a question but is never here, which is Greg, he actually said, I saw the stream, I need to be on the show. So he's going to be here for the next one right after Ignite. So we have Teams Rooms Tech Talk, this show once a month. Jimmy, who we call Jimmy 2 times, just came from another live stream on the channel, which is Selling Teams Rooms, which is dedicated to partners. You get all the updates you need in 10 minutes. Then we have Teams Friday. That's coming up after this show, which is the Circle of Excellence team with Michael Tressler. And then soon we'll also have 5-minute Fridays with Higsy, where you get 5-minute tips on different topics.
Gary, bet you didn't know that we were doing all this.
No, I didn't. This is a lot.
There's a lot of work in the pipe.
Yeah.
It's really good.
This is awesome.
We've been busy, so good. But we are here today. We're going to talk about support, and support for Teams Room in particular. I'm surprised we haven't seen it, but now we do, about the licensing, the new licensing option that was actually released this week. So there is Teams Room Pro and Teams Room Basic. I just did with Marin the Selling Teams Room Friday, and we did tease. We just don't have enough time on 10 minutes to get into all the different licensing changes that actually happened recently. And I say changes because it's a good thing. If you understand where we're going with Teams Room, this is 100% a good thing. And if you can't see it yet, I think it's kind of a teaser to stay tuned to Ignite, because there's going to be a whole bunch of things coming up. But what we're going to talk about today is how we get support. And with Gary, we're going to talk about the things that have been going on for the last year in preparation for a lot of these things. As you know, Microsoft is a data-driven company. We crunch data, we look at things. And how do we actually do support? Well, we don't always do support on a personal level where there's a person there doing it. We use AI, we use machine learning. Gary has been behind the scenes modeling a lot of these behaviors and making sure that when somebody has a support issue, they get to the right person. And again, getting to that right person is a challenge sometimes. So we'll go through some stuff, but Michelle, I think that's framing the outline of what we want to
Yes.
talk about right here.
Gary, would you like to introduce yourself? I think people know Jimmy and then Hixie and myself, but you're new to the show, so please introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. My name is Gary Anselme. I currently work with the PG group. One of the things specifically I've been working on is the RAP team, which is the Room Assistance Program. And so it only made sense to join this show to talk about support, because the RAP program has been integral in making sure that you have, or customers, OEM partners have a successful support experience.
And it's you and teams of people behind the scene. This is
absolutely.
a support program that, again, it's rapid assistance program that basically makes sure that if you've got a Teams Room problem, you're going to get to the right people. But I think it's important to sort of point out too, first line of support, really, we look at the OEMs and we say, hey, where can I first get support? Well, let's look at our OEM and where we purchased that product from. And that's important because not everything is a Microsoft problem. I think we've all been in the conference room where somebody decided to troubleshoot themselves and unplug the cable. That can't be solved by a Microsoft person. So we look at some of our OEMs and we say, hey, let's make sure that they're doing that first line of troubleshooting. We're looking at our disti channel and make sure they're doing their line of troubleshooting. We look at our partners and say, hey, you might have a support contract with a partner. Make sure that we're engaging with them as well.
Yes. By the way, Teams Room's Tech Talk is a very, very interactive show. So if you have any questions for Gary or for anybody else here, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as we can. The first question for you, by the way, Gary, which is non-tech related at all, is the amazing artwork behind you.
Oh, okay.
So the question is, I really dig Gary's artwork behind him. Who's the artist?
So I believe it's Maxwell Dixon on this particular one. So
there you go, Thomas.
It's a gift from the wife. The wife knows I like to wear bow ties and hats, so she said, "Hey, that definitely looks like you." So I didn't wear one today for the show, obviously, but wanted to make sure I put up something nice.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Michelle, go ahead and share the slides. Let's put up the slides and let's make sure that we go through some of the basics. Some people may not even know that we offer support from the devices themselves. And we look at things and we make sure that when you're reporting things, they go into the system. And I think a lot of clarification needs to be done on this. If you're talking about Teams Rooms on Android and you go in to the settings side, you can report an issue. And when you report a problem, I think a lot of people are thinking, well, I reported this problem, but I didn't get an email. I didn't get a notification that a case was opened. I didn't get all of these things that I usually do when I report a problem. And I think this goes towards a little bit about how we're actually doing some support for things. We look at the Teams Room Android and we report a problem, and it goes up to a portal where eventually, if this is a common problem, we can take action on it. We're not necessarily working directly with you, but we are looking at logs. We are looking at that device. We're looking at the state of that device, and we're looking at that reported problem. We're not engaging with you on a level of it's opening a ticket, it's doing those sort of things. We're looking on the back end. If you've got an immediate issue, this might not be the best way to open a problem, but this is a good way to report a problem when you're in the room experiencing that issue. A lot of times when people report an issue, it's hard to duplicate. And if you report that issue right away, we're marking in time exactly where that issue happened, and we can look through the logs and make sure, hey, this might have been a one-off, but this might be a larger thing that happens. And if you're on Teams Rooms on Android, troubleshooting those problems. We've got a whole list of problems that are common that you can look at. I think this Sway is still up there, troubleshooting Teams Android devices. Thank you to Michael Tressler for putting this together and putting this out there. And if you're on Teams or in Windows, you've got the same sort of solution where you can go into settings. You can send feedback to Microsoft. This isn't opening a ticket for you. And this is a common misconception that used to happen with Teams rooms. You can send the feedback from the device itself. And with the send logs with feedback, you can actually send it to somebody internal. So if you've got an internal address to actually send those logs, you can report it and you can track that as an organization internally.
And you can set this up in the Teams Admin Center, correct, Jimmy?
Correct. Well,
That's
on the
right.
device itself. On the device itself, you actually send the logs with feedback. So I think it's actually, I'm not sure if you can set this through the XML right now or not.
Yeah, I believe you can.
Yeah. So that's where this is set, is on the device itself through the XML, through Teams Admin Center. You've got a whole bunch of different places you can set this, but this is how you do it. Now, the best practice when requesting help, make sure you're running the most recent updates. Gary, how many times on the Rapid Assistance Program update your firmware?
Yeah, even the first thing, even frontline support. Are you on the latest firmware or software, right? And it's critical that you're always running the latest as far as software and firmware.
And again, even the second one, provide a clear statement of the problem when you're reporting the problem, whether it's a ticket that you're reporting, whether it's something. Don't say, I can't see the screen. Guess what? There's 3 screens on Teams rooms. What screen can't you see? Be clear about it, because what's going to happen is if you're not clear and somebody looks at that problem, they may reach out to you and say, hey, what do you mean? You may not remember. Let's go ahead and be clear while you're experiencing the problem. And if you can reproduce the issue, that's an important part as well.
Right. So is there a best practice, Gary, the stuff that people can put in there in that problem statement of the ticket? Kind of like you need to tick these boxes before you hit submit.
Yeah, take that approach of who, what, when, and where, right? When did the problem happen? Who did the problem happen to, right? Who was affected? How did it happen? What was the experience? And more importantly, I mean, we have it listed here. If you have a video or a screenshot, that speaks volumes for engineers, right? Because then they could easily see what's happening, and more than likely, it'll be easier to reproduce.
Yeah. And the device logs, if you're doing it from the device itself, that's attaching the logs. But if you're opening a ticket, let's say with Premier Support, maybe your partner organization that installed the device for you has a support ticket, but you told them about the problem, but you didn't give them the logs. That's going to make this a little bit more difficult to actually troubleshoot. So make sure that whenever you're doing things, you are getting those logs, whether it's you pulling them or hitting the report a ticket. Either way, the logs are actually saved somewhere to go ahead and make that a little bit easier. And again, you said it, Gary, video or screenshot of the issue can do wonders for how to actually see the problem. And again, how many users are affected? Raise it at the correct severity level. Through our Premier Support level, you can actually raise it at a certain level so that eyes can get on it. And once it gets in there, Gary, I grabbed this from you because I think this was an important part of how do people actually raise these tickets, and how does the AI go through and do things? And Michelle, you hit the nail on the head with, are there things that I can do in there? There's eventually going to be AI that traps on certain key terms, like Microsoft Teams rooms, like MTR, that will help this flow of a support ticket inside of the organization itself.
Yeah, and this is a real good slide, by the way. I wonder who created it. But what's interesting here is, if you notice, there's AI before and machine learning before it actually hits the support engineer. So it knows exactly the correct support group to route a ticket and issue to. And so, we have a kind of saying internally, like, we want to make sure that the customer has a seamless, fast experience to trying to get their issues resolved, right? And so once you go to the support engineer, if the issue can't be resolved by that support engineer using wikis or KBs or just general knowledge, then it goes to the RAP engineer. And the RAP engineer essentially has a next level of knowledge about the device. and they'll be able to resolve the issue in a much faster and an efficient manner, right? And if they can't solve it, it then goes to the product team engineer. So they have a
Say
direct.
that again. Say that again, because I don't think that people understand that the exact engineers that design these things, right? Say that again.
If the wrap engineers can't solve the issue, it goes directly to the product team engineers, right? And that's huge. They have a direct connect into the PG group.
And that's an important thing, because I think that a lot of people see sort of what came with premium, the ability to actually open up that ticket themselves through that portal and say, all right, I'm working directly with people that are understanding this. That has gone away from the premium portal, but I want to make sure that people understand it hasn't gone away from Microsoft. Microsoft
That's right.
still has this ability, but we want to make sure that you're following these processes of the OEM, the partner, the distribution side. Make sure that you're going through this. Now, I always say to people, the customer, if they have Premier support, it's a great place to open a ticket. And why is that? Because a partner is not going to be able to submit the ticket on behalf of your team's environment. Higgsy, you and I both know we would troubleshoot a lot on the team's admin center side. If we
Yeah.
can't see their portal, it might not be a problem that is worldwide. It might only be a problem because of conditional access or things like that. And
Exactly.
that's
There's always going to be those nuances with your own environment, and sometimes you need to be able to recreate the issue in a more reliable environment that's outside. To be able to test it in outside environments. The thing I love about the wrap team, and here in Asia, we've had a lot of experience to some of the wrap engineers. This team are highly skilled. In fact, some of the time I reach out to them because I don't know the answers for certain things. I learn from them. They are so amazing, these wrap engineers. They are so knowledgeable on all things Teams rooms.
Yeah, and I think key to this too is the ability to actually wrap this up and get statistics, get
Is that a
things
pun?
that are going to the product group about saying this is what's happening. The premium portal, the managed room program, again, that has the ability to actually alert people. And if you are on the pro license, you do still get that portal as part of your pro license. So that's not going away. It still reports and it bubbles up. And if the product group sees things that are bubbling up, and it's a common ticket, that enables them to actually push that out across the managed room portal, so that others that might be, Higgsy, to your point, it's Friday night. I might wake up tomorrow and not know the problem. You may have experienced the problem already. So having that ability to actually do 24/7 aggregation of issues and things like that, we want to make sure that everybody understands that's how this works. And I know that a lot of people don't see it, and I think that's important to understand, Gary. And that's why I was so excited to have this show with you on.
Well, yeah, no, well, let me add to a little bit, right? You mentioned a key thing very early on is Microsoft is data driven, right? And so the wrap team collects tons of data, right? So they're able to monitor trends and see what's happening in various different devices down to, at the OEM level. And it's really been super helpful, because when we go over that information with the product team and the product team engineers, there's a lot of insightful information. And then just more importantly too, it goes full circle, right? So once the issues are resolved, I don't know if you can notice that little dotted line, it goes back to the support engineer via whether it's a KB or a wiki, so that this way, if someone else calls with the same issue, support engineer is like, oh yeah, we know about this issue, it's been resolved, and here's how we fix it, right? So it's full circle. It never ends. It doesn't end with just like, hey, issue resolved. They track the case, they record the information, they document it, they make sure that the appropriate people have access to the information, so that this way, again, when an issue happens, whether you're an OEM partner, whether you're a customer, you're getting the right answer in a much more efficient manner.
Yeah, and Michael actually posted there. Tracy Her is part of the similar group with the Android group as well. If Michael, please post that video of Can You Stump Her? I gotta say this is an incredible session. If you are not subscribed to Michael Tressler, Flinchbot's YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe because he's got a tremendous thing that he's been working on. Tracy is brilliant on the Android side and went through a whole bunch of things with him. It's going to be spectacular. But this exists, and like you said, it's not just okay. We're not just collecting data. We're making sure we get back so that if we do have things and it comes up, people aren't struggling with it. I know Microsoft is a huge company, and being on the outside, you sometimes think, oh, they're not actually doing this. But I think that's where, Michelle, a show like this really sort of helps understand we are doing this. We have all of this on the back end to actually help not only our partners and distribution and our OEMs, but to help us as well. Because as PTSs, you, me, myself, and Higgsy, we get these questions a lot.
Yep, we do. Let's take a few questions from the chat. Daniel has a long question, which he is apologizing for, by the way. Is there an update plan to the Teams Admin Center devices health status process? Sometimes devices are shown as online but are offline, not logged in, and vice versa. Also, if the health state does not match, how can you troubleshoot the state of the device via the Teams Admin Center firewall issues, connectivity issues?
So I'm glad that he asked this. I saw actually a post last night from Ilya on Twitter, and Ilya is our vice president of product who handles Teams devices. And he actually came out and said, we understand that Teams Admin Center, as far as the health state, is a little bit underwhelming. And his goal is to actually make that better. And one thing that he said is stay tuned for Ignite. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things that you're going to see. Health status right now, I agree. Teams Admin Center might not be the best, but here's the great thing, Michelle. There's a new thing called the Pro license, and it includes the Premium Portal. And the Premium Portal with the managed room, that actually does give pretty good health indications and quick information regarding it. The goal of that, as I understand it, and I hope that this some way happens, is to get that into Teams Admin Center. And I don't know anything. I'm not announcing anything here, but that would be the ultimate thing. Would be to take all of the learnings from that managed room program and bring them into the admin center. And I think that's where the product group, if I have in my head how they're going to structure things, I think that's where they want to go.
I think we need to explain that for somebody that has never been on Premium previously. So maybe briefly, since September 1st, Tom, don't get us in trouble. We'll the question in a second. Since September 1st, there are two new licenses. So the standard and premium license are no more for Teams rooms. There are two licenses. There is the basic license, aimed for SMB, max of 25 rooms. You get core functionality, plus some Teams Admin Center stuff like auto enrollment and then basic security. Free of charge. Right, so you can go to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, purchase the free license there, and then add it to the resource account. There is a video on the YouTube channel which explains how to do that. But the most important thing is there's now also the Pro license, and the Pro license is taking everything that's in standard, plus everything that we're doing around intelligent audio and intelligent video. We had Arash on the show last time, I think. To talk about that. We'll have more about that during Ignite. Plus all these AI-driven services that were previously in the premium license. Now, with the premium license, there was a premium portal. Soon, you'll be able to access that premium portal with the Pro account.
And Tom, I don't think that we are announcing any ETA on getting it into the premium portal. I don't think that's really in our purview right now. But on the Teams selling Teams rooms that we just did, there's a new firmware update, and I think it's important to understand how these new licenses actually work. Number one, the firmware update needs to be applied. So if you apply a basic license to a system that was purchased prior to September 1st and not updated to the latest firmware, probably doesn't know what that basic license is. But then there's the back end of this as well, Michelle, and this is why a lot of this wrap program actually exists, is because there are what are called web updates as well. And web updates mean that when the firmware is pushed to the device, there's things that happen in the cloud. And the ability to do things inside of the cloud can be added, removed, and changed quickly. And that's really the way that the product group has been looking at some of the features that we have, including this license. This license includes both a firmware level update and a web update on the back end. So just because the firmware has been released doesn't mean that everything on the back end is there. Now, the good thing is the devices purchased after September 1st, those are the ones that get the premium and the basic license. The standard and the standard and the premium, or the basic and the pro, the standard and the premium continue to work.
Yes.
They're not going away. So that's what we're doing, is using this time of users who have that standard and premium license, sort of using this bridge time to make sure that the firmware is updated, that the web updates are there, and everything's out in the field and everything's working before we say, hey, we're pulling the plug on this.
Yeah. And not going away doesn't mean that you can still purchase it. It means that if you have it, you can use it until the end of your contract term. Or if your contract ends before, I think, December 1st, you can opt for renewal. So you cannot purchase the new license, but the old license will still work for the time that you are in the contract.
Yeah. And a little bit about, I sort of wanted to include this inside of the slide, and we all sort of put this in and said, how do we troubleshoot things? Okay, so now we know support, but I think it's important to know that there is an expectation of a little bit of troubleshooting can be done on the user end through the partner, through a support contract, through Disti, through all of these things, and they can look at things, but it's not always up to them to sort of look at things. As a Teams admin themselves, they should be able to look inside of Teams Admin Center and be able to troubleshoot a lot of things, like a poor call. Let's say somebody reported a poor audio inside of a call. It involved the Teams rooms. Obviously, a lot of people will point to the Teams room and say, hey, it's the Teams room that was having the problem. But guess what we know of in the back end, because we have all of this AI that troubleshoots this. Many poor audio calls are actually caused by non-certified devices inside of the call, which reflect themselves as having the problem in the team room, but it's actually that other device that's introducing the problem. Michelle, as we talk here and everything else, we're on a different platform. But if you remember, we've always had problems with like outside noise, different things coming in and things like that. And again, it goes towards using the right equipment can really get you a long way. And Higgsy, I know that you troubleshoot and you do a session on the Teams Academy specifically about troubleshooting a poor audio call.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you think about the number of times that you've been in a meeting room and then the audio just been terrible, and naturally it's you kind of go, okay, is it the room system? What's going on here? But it's going through the Teams Admin Center, going through the diagnostics that you can see on the screen here, actually going through, breaking into the call. You'll be able to see the far end of the call and see, what device they're using. Are they coming from the cellular network? Have they lost coverage? And you can make assumptions then that, well, maybe it's not actually the Teams Rooms device that's wrong here. Maybe it's because of that person on the far end who had poor reception or had poor network coverage. And, there's other factors that are obviously going to come into play rather than just assuming that it's just the Teams Rooms device in front of you. And the Teams Admin Center is a great way for any IT admin to obviously dive into those calls, always keeping security and confidentiality top of mind there. You'll be able to jump into a meeting room and understand where it had that poor experience.
Yeah. Gary, I would love to hear from you where you would start when you would see something like this. But go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this is super valuable, right? Like, I'm just thinking in a previous life, right, as an end user, this is where I would first go, right? Somebody says, hey, I have an issue, I can't hear or I can't see. I'm going into the admin center and I want to see or know what it is exactly that you can't see or you can't hear, and at what time exactly that happened, right? A lot of times, just like Jimmy says, it could be a non-certified device, or it could be, hey, you lost internet, you're on Wi-Fi, you're not hardwired. There's a variety of issues, but this specifically lets you know what's going on with Team devices. And this is where I would first start, right? Once somebody tells me, hey, I'm having this particular issue, as an IT admin, I'm going in here to kind of drill down and dig deeper.
Right. Yeah, so let's take a couple of questions.
Yeah, we got a couple of questions.
Right. So
I like this one.
Yes,
it affects all of us on the partner level.
You can answer that, I think. So for customers watching, the CDX platform is a platform that Microsoft partners can use to activate demo environments, and then in those demo environments they can kind of play around and not break anything. There will be a pro license available in the CDX demo tenants. For as far as I know, they're not available yet, but that's coming soon. And then there's also, do you have any other information, Higgsy or Jimmy?
Yeah, I was going to say that I believe it'll be for 60 days, 60-day trial of the pro license.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's there. But I think there's also going to be, like we have in the CDX demo now, there's a standard license for 5 rooms. We're going to add a pro license instead of the standard. And then Paul is asking, allowing E5 to work with MTR devices. I think that's an important one. We also made the announcement that it's going to be impossible to add E5 licenses to MTR devices starting. I don't have the date, but I think
Yeah, it's on the from the 1st of July of
July.
2023. So and we're actually going to be doing a little bit more than just hard block, right? We're actually going to have on-screen notifications and notifications in Teams Admin Center to let you know that your devices are using non-compliant licenses. So you'll be notified well before that end date.
I
Yes, for
saw
those,
that on my Teams Rooms on Windows device this week actually, and I saw some people posting the screenshot of room license, and it just basically says, "We noticed that this is not licensed with a room license. Please do this so that you do not discontinue service." And that's an important part of understanding. Enterprise licenses E3, E5, they have been supported on devices, but we have been very clear, even on the documentation itself, for well over a year now. This may go away at some point, and this support is not infinite for enterprise licenses. Remember, room systems are a different animal than users, and we want to make sure that we're actually looking at things correctly, that we're licensing things correctly, and that we're applying things correctly. And this gives us the ability to actually make sure that when we see a room license, we know that it's a room device.
yeah. For the next, and I mean, we only have 13 minutes left. I really want to get the most out of Gary since we have him here, right? So I want to ask a bunch of questions. Jimmy, I know you have some more slides. You might want to move to the next one.
Log collecting.
Yeah, so it's funny because you have a Tressler screenshot here. That's fun. Where do you start when you get, so you can get the logs from the Teams Admin Center? It takes a few minutes, and then you get a notification that you can download them. Gary, this is a zip file which is full of documents, and if you've never seen it before, it can be quite intimidating. So where do you start when you download these logs, and what information do you want to pull from them?
Well, I want everything, right? Because you just don't know what is triggering or causing a particular issue, right? So even, and again, probably because of a previous life, when I call up support, I always have the logs ready, because one of the first things a frontline support agent is going to ask is, do you have the logs? Can I see the logs, or can I review the logs? So
Yeah.
I'll go into Admin Center, or I'll make sure that, whether I'm sending the logs directly from the device, I'll go in and just pull them and have them ready to send, so that this way I'm not getting asked, and I don't want to waste anybody's particular time, right? And going back to Jimmy's previous statement, I'll have the who, the what, the when, the where, the how. I'll have the log. And so it's like, hey, I'm trying to make this fast for you and for me as well, right? To try to resolve the particular issue. So I look at everything, right? Whether it's a video issue, audio issue, admin issue, right? All of these events matter that you're seeing.
Even enrolling, your first steps of enrolling the device and getting it logged into the system. All right, I can't log in. Device logs help, because you're seeing from the device exactly what it's trying to do, what it might get rejected on. Inside of Teams Admin Center, you might only see what Admin Center is saying. Yeah, I issued this, but then I got no response. So there's a whole bunch of things that can be happening there. As far as even firewalls and things like that, and you might not know. So having the device logs, an important part of the troubleshooting experience.
And you should be able to tell customers that, right? And just say, hey, there's this MTR device. There's a lot going on inside, right? And, it will help you if you have those logs ready when you call, right? because just trying to troubleshoot without even having the logs is just, it's kind of a challenge. So having that very early on conversation, boom, here you go. And also understand, like, we're sifting through thousands of lines of logs to determine what the issue is, making sure that, hey, you set expectations as, understand, like, hey, this probably won't be resolved within the next 5 minutes,
Yeah.
short of unless somebody unplugged an HDMI cable. But they're gonna sift through those logs and to determine what the issue is.
But is there something, Gary, before they put the support ticket in or get on the phone? Is there something besides downloading the logs they can do? An IT admin or a room admin or a Microsoft partner or maybe just an end customer can do to kind of troubleshoot themselves to isolate maybe an issue before they call support? Or are you like, no, just put the ticket in the system? That's the easiest way.
Well, no, absolutely. There are several things, right? First, understand what your issue is. Is it an audio issue or is it a video issue? Let's choose video just to make it simple, right? So, okay, I can't see the far end, or I can't see somebody, or I don't see anything on my screen. First thing I'm going to probably do is let me see if the screen is even on, right? Like on or off, right? Then I might go check that HDMI cable, say, okay, is the device actually plugged in? And now that may be a bit of a challenge depending on who's trying to troubleshoot. But it's almost like if you're at home, right? When your cable box doesn't, show content on your TV, sometimes you reboot the cable box. Other times you'll look to see if that cable is actually connected to the TV. It probably just needed to kind of just reconnect right into the TV and for it to work. From an audio perspective, you might want to check the volume first, right? Check to make sure that you're not on mute. Make sure that the microphone itself is still working. Like those are like the small things. I like to call those like low hanging fruit that will help you solve those small to minor issues, right? And they happen a lot.
And we're all technical on this call, but you know what? Tickets are raised for that.
That's right.
We see the tickets are raised for that. So it's doing even the simple things and everything else. We all assume like, oh, somebody did this. Don't assume like somebody did that. And let's make sure that you're doing that basic troubleshooting.
And as people come back into the office on their RTO plans, some rooms have been heavily utilized, some have not. So it's important to kind of, make sure that folks are doing room checks. I'm not saying you need to do it every day. It could be monthly, but just make sure that the room, as an IT admin, make sure that the room is functioning in an appropriate way, and you get like a sign off or a check off to say, hey, yep, this room is working, right? And if the next day it's not working, you could go back and say, well, let's see what wasn't, what's not working here. So, but
okay, Gary, you raised a good point there around the IT admins. There's also the AV people as well that when they're being brought in to troubleshoot, not necessarily an audio or video related issue, it's a sign-in issue. It's like what does the support process look like for an AV person, an AV integrator, someone who's deploying these rooms? When there's conditional access in play or Intune that's having these challenges. So obviously being able to follow a support process, collect their logs, and leverage not only Teams Admin Center but Azure Active Directory as well. Being able to navigate how to diagnose sign-in related issues that can be daunting for some.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a question from Gerardo. He's asking, are the logs you pull from Teams Admin Center the same as the verbose logs you generate from the MTR via PowerShell?
They are.
Yeah.
They are. This is all the same log files that we work through and we get. So however you're obtaining them, make sure that they're attached to the case. That's the important part.
I think that's it for questions for now.
I put a couple more things in. Higgsy, I think I stole this slide from you. For device registration, realize, all right, how do things log in with modern authentication? Because this is a unique way of doing things, or a newer way of doing things as well. We are putting in the password, but that password is only there for the first time. After that, there's actually a token that's generated between the devices so that you're not passing passwords back and forth. Understand that token needs to refresh. That token needs to be there. What if you were logged in and then all of a sudden it doesn't log in anymore? Let's start to think about the registration process and how these devices can actually go through. And Higgsy, you've got up there as a first point. It can take 8 minutes for a device to register. Why is that? You're going through Intune. You're going through the company portal. You're going through all of these different authentication methods. Microsoft has that zero trust and that authentication property that doesn't only count on one end. Conditional access can be a huge number of conditions that it has to work through to actually get logged in. So I think this was a good slide, Higgsy.
Yep. Thank you. No, it's good. It's frequently overlooked how there's an assumption that when you plug a device and sign it in, and you're sitting there hitting refresh in Teams Admin Center, going, "Well, it's signed in. It's why am I not seeing it?" Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot more going on behind the scenes after you jumped all those hoops. Intune, conditional access, authentication, as you mentioned, company portal, just to be able to get it to appear in Teams Admin Center. And the same thing applies as well as also when you're expecting changes to get applied to your devices when you make changes in the Teams Admin Center as well. Now, my understanding is that this whole process is going to get quicker, but that's a work in progress at the moment.
Higgsy, Michelle, Gary, we are coming up at the top of the hour. And it's Jimmy 3 times because Jimmy's got to go do another presentation. Jimmy's got to go do another presentation to a very special partner, a very lucky partner who's getting me after the first 2 sessions that I did.
Wow, look at that. Look at the arrogance.
It is the top of the hour. Gary, thank you again. I know you and I have been working for a year on a lot of these things and everything else. It's good to sort of put it out there. Thank you for all the support that you give us on the back end. Thank you to the entire team, even the product group and everybody behind this, because there are problems that come up. And one of the things that I think we can end this show on and agree on, we like to resolve them. Yeah. Nobody wants to have an issue. You will have an issue, but the real credit to is if we have an issue, how do we respond and how do we resolve that?
Exactly. Right. Gary, thank you so much for joining us. Higgsy, good to have you here. It's almost weekend.
Thanks for staying up, Higgsy.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's almost Saturday in 3 minutes.
Yeah, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll be back next month right after Ignite with Greg to talk about all the exciting new announcements that we had. Enjoy. We'll see you on next Friday, Selling Teams Rooms, and then also next Friday we'll have the Teams Friday show with Michael Tressler. So thanks everyone. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks everyone.
Bye guys.
Cheers guys. Thank you very much.
Oh, Gary.